The year was 1981. While An American Werewolf in London, The Evil Dead, and Friday the 13th Part 2 would go on to become the celebrated classics of the year, the horror genre was experiencing an explosion of creativity that went far beyond these now legendary titles. In the shadows of video stores, between the bigger titles, sat films that pushed boundaries in ways the mainstream wouldn't dare. Tonight, we're diving deep into the dark corners of 1981, beyond the blockbusters and into territory where Italian gates of hell open in Louisiana hotels, where birthday parties end in Baroque murder sequences, and where ancient mountain demons hunt with primitive cunning. These are 10 films that might have slipped through the cracks, but they never lost their power to disturb, unsettle, and remind us that sometimes the best horror is hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be rediscovered. The Burning, 1981. Summer camp slashers were everywhere in the early 80s, but The Burning carved its own bloody path through familiar territory. When a prank goes horribly wrong at Camp Blackfoot, caretaker Cropsey is left horribly disfigured and burning with revenge. 5 years later, he returns to terrorize a new generation of campers with his razor-sharp garden shears. What elevates The Burning above standard slasher fare is its attention to character and craft. The film takes its time establishing its ensemble cast, including early appearances by Jason Alexander and Holly Hunter, making us actually care about these teenagers beyond their inevitable role as victims. The camp environment feels lived in and authentic, with genuine moments of friendship and drama playing out between the scares. But let's be honest, the real star here is Tom Savini's groundbreaking special effects work. The legendary Gore master delivers some of his most impressive practical effects, including the infamous raft scene that ranks among the most shocking mass murder sequences in slasher history. The scene plays out in broad daylight, breaking horror conventions and proving that terror doesn't need shadows to thrive. Cropsey himself is a different kind of slasher villain. While other masked killers of the era were supernatural or simply evil, Cropsey's origin story gives him a tragic dimension. His burns and disfigurement come from a prank gone wrong, making him both victim and villain. The film even takes time to show his painful recovery and rejection by society, adding layers of complexity to what could have been a one-dimensional killer. The Burning also benefits from its gritty, authentic New York locations, and a moody score that builds tension even in quieter moments. While other slashers of the era rushed to copy Friday the 13th's formula, The Burning took risks with its pacing, character development, and unflinching violence that still shocks audiences today. For fans of Golden Age slashers, The Burning remains a high watermark that proves sometimes the best horror comes from mixing familiar elements in bold new ways. Hell Night, 1981. College hazing takes a deadly turn when four pledges are locked inside Garth Manor for an all-night initiation. The sprawling Victorian estate comes with quite a history. 12 years ago, the owner killed his deformed children before taking his own life. But as our unfortunate students discover, some family reunions never truly end. What separates Hell Night from standard slasher fare is its Gothic atmosphere and production design. Trading typical teen hangouts for a genuine Gothic mansion gives the film a classic horror feel. The setting is a character itself, all creeping vines, secret passages, and candlelit corridors that would make Vincent Price feel at home. The film takes its time establishing the layout, making the house's geography a crucial part of the survival game. Linda Blair leads the cast as Marty, bringing her horror pedigree to a final girl role that requires more than just screaming. Her character's mechanical knowledge becomes a vital survival skill, while her practical approach to the situation helps ground the supernatural elements. The other pledges aren't just standard victim fodder either. Each gets enough development to make their fate matter. The killers themselves offer a twist on slasher conventions. Instead of a single masked murderer, we get multiple deformed siblings who've been living in the mansion's underground tunnels. Their attacks feel more like a coordinated hunt than standard stalk and slash fare. The makeup effects strike a balance between horrific and tragic, reminding us these monsters were once someone's children. Director Tom DeSimone uses the pledge's awareness of the manor's history to play with expectations. Every creaking floorboard could be their fellow students pulling pranks or something far worse. The film maintains tension by keeping both the pledges and audience guessing about what's real threat and what's hazing ritual until it's too late. Hell Night proves that sometimes the scariest initiations are the ones where the urban legends turn out to be true, and the only way to survive is to face the family secrets buried beneath the floorboards. The Funhouse, 1981. Tobe Hooper trades his Texas chainsaw for carnival frights in this Gothic spin on the slasher formula. When four teenagers decide to spend the night in a traveling carnival's funhouse, they discover the painted smiles and mechanical laughter hide something far more sinister. Behind the scenes of this seedy attraction lurks a deformed killer, his carnival barker father, and family secrets that were never meant to see the light of day. What makes the Funhouse special is its commitment to atmosphere. Hooper transforms the carnival into a character itself. Every creaking ride, leering mechanical fortune teller, and grimy sideshow becomes part of a larger tapestry of unease. The film takes its time exploring this world of artificial joy, showing us both the gaudy public face and the rotting infrastructure behind it. The production design deserves special mention. Every frame is packed with carnival imagery that shifts from nostalgic to nightmarish. Mechanical clowns laugh endlessly in the darkness. Stripped-down animatronics twitch with unnatural life, and the funhouse itself becomes a maze of twisted mirrors and false exits. It's like Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way comes crossed with a fever dream. The killer himself is a masterwork of practical effects, combining elements of classic movie monsters with carnival grotesquerie. Unlike other slashers of the era, the reveal of his face isn't just a shock moment. It's tied to deeper themes about appearance, family, and the masks we all wear. The father-son relationship adds layers of tragedy to the horror, suggesting cycles of abuse hidden behind the carnival's bright lights. Elizabeth Berridge brings depth to our final girl, creating a character who's both vulnerable and resourceful. The film subverts expectations by making her curiosity about the carnival's dark side part of what drives the story forward. Meanwhile, veteran character actor Kevin Conway delivers a memorable performance as the Barker, walking the line between showman and monster. The Funhouse proves that sometimes the scariest places are the ones designed to make us laugh, and that behind every painted smile lurks the potential for genuine horror. Dead and Buried, 1981. Welcome to Potter's Bluff, where the tourists keep dying, but the town's population somehow stays the same. When Sheriff Dan Gillis investigates a series of brutal murders, he uncovers a conspiracy that challenges everything he knows about life, death, and his seemingly picture-perfect coastal community. At the center of it all is the town mortician, played with unsettling charm by Jack Albertson in his final role. What sets Dead and Buried apart is its unique approach to zombie mythology. This isn't your standard undead apocalypse. It's a slow-burn mystery where the walking dead are hiding in plain sight, going about their daily routines while harboring dark secrets. The film plays with themes of small-town identity and belonging, asking what people might sacrifice to keep their community alive. The murder sequences are notorious for their creativity and brutality. Stan Winston's effects work shines in scenes that combine psychological horror with graphic violence. The opening beach sequence sets the tone, turning amateur photography into an instrument of terror. Each death is meticulously photographed by the townspeople, creating a disturbing connection between violence and art. Director Gary Sherman builds tension through careful pacing and misdirection. The film keeps viewers guessing by presenting multiple genres at once. Is this a slasher, a conspiracy thriller, a supernatural horror? The answer is all and none of these, as Dead and Buried carves its own unique path through horror territory. James Ferrantino brings complexity to Sheriff Gillis, portraying a man whose investigation forces him to question not just his town, but his own identity. Meanwhile, Jack Albertson's Dobbs steals every scene as the mortician who takes perhaps too much pride in his work. Their interactions crackle with tension as the truth slowly emerges. The film's screenplay by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett of Alien fame layers mystery upon mystery, leading to one of the most shocking twist endings of the era. Dead and Buried proves that sometimes the most effective horror comes from questioning not just who we can trust, but who we really are. The Beyond, 1981, Lucio Fulci's masterpiece of metaphysical horror, takes us to a Louisiana hotel built over one of the seven gates of hell. When Liza inherits the Seven Doors Hotel, she unknowingly inherits a legacy of supernatural violence that blurs the lines between our world and the next. As reality begins to unravel, she discovers that sometimes the gateway to hell is a fixer-upper with really bad plumbing. What makes The Beyond unique is its dreamlike approach to horror. Fulci abandons traditional narrative logic for a series of increasingly surreal sequences where cause and effect become meaningless. The hotel exists in multiple times and spaces at once, where opening a door might lead you to a flooded basement, a Gothic library, or directly into hell itself. The film's violence is both extreme and artistic. Each death scene is choreographed like a grotesque ballet, with Fulci's infamous eye trauma fetish taken to new heights. But these aren't just shock moments. They're part of a larger tapestry where the human body itself becomes unreliable, subject to supernatural forces that treat flesh like clay. Katrina McCall brings a grounded presence to Liza, serving as our anchor in a world gone mad. Her performance helps sell the gradual dissolution of reality, as she moves from practical concerns about hotel renovation to cosmic horror about the nature of existence itself. David Warbeck's Dr. McCabe provides the voice of skeptical reason, until reason itself becomes another casualty. The real star might be the atmosphere. Fulci and cinematographer Sergio Salvati create a thick, humid mood where even daylight scenes feel somehow wrong. The hotel's architecture becomes increasingly impossible, while Fabio Frizzi's haunting score emphasizes the spiritual rot beneath the surface. The Beyond isn't interested in explaining its mysteries. Instead, it presents horror as a form of dark poetry, where logic gives way to nightmare, and even death might not be an escape from the horrors that await beyond the seven doors. The Prowler, 1981. The Prowler brings World War II trauma into small-town America with chilling results. When the sleepy town of Avalon Bay decides to hold its first graduation dance since 1945, they unleash a killer who's been waiting 35 years to recreate his first murderous rampage. Dressed in full military gear and armed with a pitchfork, this Prowler turns the celebration into a night of methodical revenge. What makes the Prowler stand out is its historical context and atmosphere. The film opens with actual World War II footage and a Dear John letter that sets up our killer's motivation. This isn't just another masked slasher, it's a story about how war trauma and betrayal can fester across generations. The killer's military outfit and weapons aren't just costume choices, they're remnants of real-world horror brought home. Tom Savini returns to deliver some of his most brutal and realistic effects work. The kills in The Prowler are notorious for their unflinching intensity, from the infamous shower scene to the underwater discovery that still makes audiences gasp. These aren't just creative deaths. They're executed with a military precision that fits the killer's background. Director Joseph Zito brings a sophisticated eye to standard slasher setups. The film's use of location is masterful, turning the small town's empty streets and shadowy buildings into a hunting ground. The graduation dance sequences mix 1940s nostalgia with mounting dread, while the investigation elements give the film a mystery angle that keeps viewers guessing. Vicki Dawson makes for an engaging final girl as Pam McDonald, bringing intelligence and resourcefulness to her role, rather than just running and screaming. Her interactions with Deputy Mark London create actual stakes beyond simple survival, while the town's dark history slowly unravels around them. The Prowler proves that sometimes the most effective horror comes from mixing real historical trauma with genre thrills, creating a slasher that cuts deeper than most of its contemporaries. Happy Birthday to Me, 1981. Canadian horror gets sophisticated in this twisty psychological thriller about Virginia Wainwright, a troubled teen recovering from experimental brain surgery. As her 18th birthday approaches, members of her exclusive private school clique, the Top 10, start dying in increasingly bizarre ways. But in a film where memory itself can't be trusted, figuring out the killer's identity is only half the mystery. What sets Happy Birthday to Me apart is its ambitious plotting and high production values. Director J. Lee Thompson, Cape Fear, brings genuine cinematic style to the slasher genre, creating a film that's equal parts giallo mystery and psychological character study. The film takes its time developing its characters and relationships, making each death feel like more than just a creative kill scene. Speaking of creative kills, this film delivers some of the most memorable murder sequences of the era. From weightlifting accidents to motorcycle mayhem, each death is elaborately staged and surprisingly brutal. The infamous shish kebab scene remains a standout example of how to make everyday objects terrifying. But these aren't just shock moments. Each murder connects to deeper themes about identity and memory. Melissa Sue Anderson brings complexity to Virginia, creating a character who's both sympathetic and suspicious. Her performance keeps us guessing whether she's victim or villain, while flashbacks to her accident and recovery add layers of psychological depth. Glenn Ford lends gravitas as her psychiatrist, whose experimental treatment might be doing more harm than good. The film's production design deserves special mention. The Academy of Crawford Private School setting provides a Gothic backdrop of old money and older secrets. Meanwhile, Virginia's birthday party preparations build to one of the most disturbing celebration sequences in horror history, complete with a cake that no one should ever wish upon. Happy Birthday to Me elevates the slasher formula by adding psychological complexity and genuine mystery to its birthday party bloodbath, proving that sometimes the best presents are the ones that keep you guessing until the very end. Night School, 1981. Boston's academic elite gets a deadly lesson in anthropology when a mysterious killer in black leather starts decapitating female students. As Lieutenant Judd investigates the connections between an exclusive women's night school and the mounting body count, he uncovers an anthropological theory being tested in the deadliest possible way. What makes Night School, aka Terror Eyes, distinct is its sophisticated approach to the slasher formula. Set against Boston's prestigious academic backdrop, the film explores themes of cultural rituals and primitive violence hiding beneath civilized society. The killer's weapon of choice, a ceremonial curved blade, isn't just for show. It's tied directly to the anthropological studies at the heart of the mystery. Rachel Ward makes her film debut as Eleanor, bringing both intelligence and ambiguity to her role as a teaching assistant, whose expertise in primitive cultures becomes increasingly relevant to the investigation. Leonard Mann's Lieutenant Judd provides a blue-collar contrast to the academic world, his street-smart detective work clashing with the Ivory Tower's theoretical approaches to violence. Director Ken Hughes, known primarily for sophisticated British thrillers, brings an unusual polish to the proceedings. The film's murder sequences are staged with clinical precision rather than exploitation-style excess. Each decapitation is treated almost like a ritual, with the heads later discovered floating in water, a detail that proves significant to the killer's methodology. The Boston setting is used to full effect, contrasting historic architecture with modern violence. Night School captures both the prestigious universities and the working-class neighborhoods, creating a complete picture of a city where old-world education meets new-world savagery. The night scenes in particular have a fog-shrouded quality that recalls Italian giallo films. Night School proves that sometimes the most dangerous theories are the ones that escape the classroom, and that studying primitive rituals doesn't make you immune to primitive impulses. Just Before Dawn, 1981. Deep in the Oregon wilderness, 5 young campers discover that some mountains are meant to stay untamed. When they ignore warnings from a crazed local about demons in the woods, they find themselves hunted by something that's both more primitive and more cunning than any backwoods legend. This isn't just another camping trip gone wrong, it's a survival story where civilization's rules mean nothing against ancient savagery. What elevates Just Before Dawn above standard wilderness slashers is director Jeff Lieberman's commitment to atmosphere and environment. The film treats its forest setting with documentary-like attention to detail, making the wilderness itself feel like an alien world hostile to human presence. Fog-shrouded mountains and rushing rivers aren't just backdrops, they're active participants in the horror. The film's antagonists offer a fresh take on the backwoods killer formula. Instead of the standard deformed hillbilly, we get something more primal and unsettling. The way they move through the forest, their ability to mimic sounds, and their almost supernatural understanding of the terrain suggest creatures that have evolved specifically to hunt in these woods. Greg Henry and Chris Lemmon lead a cast that brings surprising depth to what could have been standard victim roles. Their characters feel like real outdoor enthusiasts who make mostly sensible decisions, which makes their situation even more terrifying when those sensible decisions prove useless against an enemy that doesn't play by civilized rules. The kills in Just Before Dawn aren't just about creative gore. They're studies in mounting dread and environmental horror. The film uses its natural setting to full effect, turning familiar outdoor activities like rock climbing and river crossing into sequences of almost unbearable tension. The finale, featuring one of horror's most unique methods of defeating a killer, proves that sometimes survival requires embracing our own primitive instincts. Just Before Dawn reminds us that nature isn't just indifferent to human presence. Sometimes it actively works to expel us, using tools that have been waiting in the mountains since before we learned to make fire. My Bloody Valentine, 1981. The mining town of Valentine Bluffs carries a dark secret beneath its blue-collar exterior. 20 years ago, a tragic mining accident led to a series of Valentine's Day murders, forcing the town to cancel its traditional holiday dance. Now, as young miners decide to revive the celebration, someone in full mining gear is making sure history repeats itself. What sets My Bloody Valentine apart is its authentic working-class setting. Unlike other slashers set in summer camps or suburbia, this film digs into the gritty reality of a mining community. The characters feel genuine. These aren't stereotypical teenagers, but hardworking miners dealing with real relationships and responsibilities. The film takes time to show the actual workings of the mine, making the setting a character in itself. The killer's outfit, complete with gas mask, helmet, and pickaxe, creates one of horror's most distinctive silhouettes. There's something primal about the way the breathing apparatus echoes through the tunnels, turning a familiar piece of safety equipment into an instrument of terror. The mining gear isn't just a costume, it's a symbol of how the town's lifeblood is turned against its people. Director George Mihalka uses the claustrophobic mine tunnels to masterful effect. The darkness isn't just for atmosphere, it's a workplace hazard these characters deal with daily. When the kills come, they're brutal and inventive, using mining equipment in ways that would make OSHA representatives faint. The film's original cut was heavily censored, but even the trimmed version maintains its impact through suggestion and staging. The Valentine's Day setting isn't just a holiday gimmick. It ties into themes of love, betrayal, and the way trauma echoes through generations. The town's attempt to reclaim joy becomes a catalyst for violence, while candy heart motifs take on sinister new meanings. My Bloody Valentine brings class consciousness to the slasher genre, creating a horror film that's as much about community identity and industrial trauma as it is about creative kills. It proves that sometimes the scariest monsters come from the everyday world of hard work and harder choices. There you have it. 10 reminders that 1981 wasn't just about the films everyone remembers. It was a year when creativity ran wild, when horror could be both artistic and extreme, when smaller productions dared to push the boundaries of what the genre could do. These films might not have gotten the recognition they deserved back then, but they've survived on the strength of their ideas, their atmosphere, and their willingness to take risks that bigger budgets wouldn't allow. They remind us that sometimes the best discoveries in horror aren't the ones everyone's talking about. They're the ones waiting patiently on dusty shelves for someone brave enough to look deeper. If you are looking for more VHS-era titles, check out our online store at ejectmedia.etsy.com. And remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is someone's favorite.